Today we'll be talking about John Lennon. John Winston Lennon was born October 9, 1940 and died on December 8, 1980. John Lennon was an English singer, songwriter, musician, and peace activist who achieved worldwide fame as a founder, co-songwriter, co-lead vocalist, and rhythm guitarist of the Beatles. Lennon was characterized by the rebellious nature and acrobatic wit in his music, writings, drawings, film, and in interviews. His songwriting partnership with Paul McCartney, remains the most successful in history. Born in Liverpool, Lennon became involved in skiffle craze as a teenager. Skiffle is like a pop style of the 50s. He formed the Quarrymen, which became the Beatles. They changed the name in 1960. Sometimes people called him the Smart Beatle. He was initially the group's de facto leader, a role gradually succeeded to McCartney. Lennon soon expanded his work into other media, participation in numerous films, including How I Won the War and authoring, in his own words, and Us Maynard in his works, both collections of nonsense writings and line drawings. Starting with All You Need Is Love. Sorry about that. Starting with All You Need Is Love. His songs are adopted as anthems of anti-war movement and larger counterculture. In '69, he started the Plastic Ono Band with his second wife, Yoko Ono, held the 2-week-long anti-war demonstration Beds for Peace, and quit the Beatles to embark a new solo career. Between 1968 and 1972, Lennon and Ono collaborated on many works, including a trilogy of avant-garde albums, several more films, and his solo debut, John Lennon Plastic Ono Band, and international top 10 singles, Give Peace a Chance, Instant Karma, Imagine, Happy Christmas, War is Over. Moving to New York, 1971, his criticism of Vietnam War resulted in a 3-year deportation attempt by the Nixon administration. Lennon and Ono separated from 1973 to 1975, during which the time Harry Nilsson album Pussycats. He has also chart-topping collaboration with Elton John, Whatever Gets You Through the Night, and David Bowie fame. Following a 5-year hiatus, Lennon returned to music in 1980 with the Ono collaboration called Double Fantasy. He was shot and killed by a Beatles fan, Mark David Chapman, 3 weeks after the album's release. Rest in peace. As a performer, writer, co-writer, Lennon had 25 #1 singles in Billboard Hot 100. Double Fantasy, his best-selling album, won the 1981 Grammy Award, Album of the Year. In '82, Lennon won the Brit Award for Outstanding Contribution to Music. In 2002, Lennon was voted 8th in a BBC history poll of 100 greatest Britons. Rolling Stone ranked him as the 5th greatest singer and 38th greatest artist of all time. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice as the members of the Beatles in 1998 and as a soloist and the solo artist in 1994. Early years, 1940 to 56. Lennon was born on October 9, 1940, at Liverpool Maternity Hospital to Julia and Alfred Lennon. Alfred was a merchant seaman of Irish descendants who was away at the time of his son's birth. His parents named James Winston Lennon, maternal grandfather John Jack Lennon, Prime Minister Winston Churchill. His father often away from home but sent regular pay cheques to 9 Newcastle Road, Liverpool, where Lennon lived with his mother. The Cheques, I can't pronounce that word, sorry, stopped when he went absent without leave in February 1944. When he eventually came home 6 months later, he offered to look after the family, but Julia, then pregnant with another man's child, rejected the idea. After her sister Mimi complained to Liverpool Social Services twice, Julia gave her custody of Lennon. In July 1946, Lennon's father visited her and took his son to Blackpool, secretly intending to immigrate to New Zealand with him. Julia followed him, with her partner at the time, Bobby Dickens. After a heated argument, his father formed the 5-year-old to choose between them. In one account of this incident, Lennon twice chose his father, but as his mother walked away, he began to cry following her. According to author Mark Lewisold, however, Lennon's parents agreed that Julia should take him and give him a home. Billy Hall, who witnessed the incident, he said that dramatic portrayal of young John Lennon being forced to make a decision between his parents are inaccurate. Lennon has no further contact with Alf for close to 20 years. Throughout the rest of the childhood and adolescence, Lennon lived in Mandip, 251 Mellove Avenue, Wilton, and Mimi, and her husband George Toogood Smith, had no children of their own. His aunt purchased volumes of short stories for him, and his uncle, a dairy farm at his family farm, bought him a mouth organ and examined him for some crossword puzzles. Julia visited Mendips on a regular basis, and John often visiting her at 1 Blomfield Road, Liverpool, where she played him Elvis Presley records, Tom the banjo, and showed him how to play. Where Julia played him Elvis Presley records, Tom the banjo, showed him how to play Ain't That a Shame by Fats Domino. September 1980, Lennon commented about his family and his rebellious nature. A part of me would like to accept that all faces of society and not be this loudmouth, lunatic poet musician. But I cannot be what I am and not. I was the one who all the other boys' parents, including Paul McCartney's father, would say, keep away from him. The parents instinctively recognized I was a troublemaker, meaning I did not conform and I would influence the truth, which I did. I did my best to disrupt every friend's home, partly out of envy. I didn't have the so-called home, but I did. There were 5 women that were my family, 5 strong, intelligent, beautiful women, 5 sisters. One happened to be my mother. She just couldn't deal with life. She was the youngest and she had a husband, a cope, who ran away to sea and the war was on, and she couldn't cope with me. And I ended up living with her elder sister. Now those women are fantastic, and that was my first feminist education. I will infiltrate other boys' minds, but I can say parents are not gods because I don't live with mine, and therefore I know. He regularly visits his cousin Stanley Parks, who lived in Fleetwood, and took him on trips to local cinemas. During the school holidays, Parks often visited Lennon and Layla Harvey, another cousin, and 3 other traveled to Blackpool 2 or 3 times to watch shows. They would visit the Blackpool Tower Circus and to see such great acts as Dickie Valentine, Arthur Askey, Max Bygraves, and Joe Losh, with Parks recalling that Lennon particularly liked George Farnaby. After Park moved to Scotland, the 3 cousins often spent their school holidays together there. Park recalled John, cousin Leah, and I were very close. From Edinburgh, we will drive up to my family craft at Durness, which was from about the time John was 9 years old and about 16. Lennon's uncle George died of a liver hemorrhage on June 5th, 1955, age 52. Lennon was raised in Legican and attended Dover Primary School. As passing in his 11 plus exam, he attended Quarry Bank in Liverpool from September 52 to 57, as described by Harvey at the time, happy-go-lucky, good-humored, easy-going, lively lad. He also established a reputation at his class as a class clown. He also drew comical cartoons in his own self-made school magazine called the Daily How. In 56, Julia bought John his first guitar. Instrument was an inexpensive Galtone Champion. Let me see what that is. Okay, it's from Gallo, Africa. Acoustic for which she lent her son £5 in £5 and 10 shillings on the condition that the guitar be delivered to her own house, not Mimi's. Knowing well that her sister is not supportive of her son's musical aspirations, Mimi was skeptical of his claim that he'll be famous one day, and she hoped that he would grow bored with music, often telling him, "The guitar is all very well, John, but you never make a living out of it." On July 15, 1958, Julia Lennon was struck and killed by a car while she was walking home from visiting the Smiths' house. His mother's death traumatized teenage Lennon, who, for the next 2 years, began heavily and frequently got into fights, consumed by a blind rage. Julia's memory was saved, would later serve as major creative inspiration for Lennon's inspiration songs such as 1968 Beatles song Julia. Lennon's senior school years are marked as a shift in his behavior. Teachers at Quarry Bank described as him thus: he has too many wrong ambitions and his energy is often misplaced. His work always lacks effort. He is content to drift instead of using his abilities. Lennon's misbehavior created a rift in his relationship with his aunt. Lennon failed his O-level examinations and was accepted into the Liverpool College of Art after his aunt and headmaster interviewed. At the college, he began to wear teddy boy clothes and was threatened with expulsion of his behavior. In the description of Cynthia Lennon, Lennon's fellow student, significantly his wife, he was thrown out of college for his final year. The Quarrymen to the Beatles. 1956 to 1970. The Quarrymen to the Beatles. Formation, fame, and touring. 56 to 1966. At the age of 17, Lennon formed a skiffle group, the Quarrymen, named after Cornbank High School. The group was established by Lennon in September 1956. By the summer of 1957, the Quarrymen had a spirit set of songs made up for half skiffle and half rock and roll. Lennon first met Paul McCartney in the Cornbank second performance, which was held in Wilton in July 6th at the St. Peter's Church Garden Fete. Lennon then asked McCartney to join the band. McCartney said that Aunt Mimi was very aware that John's friends were lower class and would often patronize him when he arrived to see Lennon. According to McCartney's brother Mike, their father similarly disapproved of Lennon, declaring that Lennon would get his son into trouble. McCartney's father nevertheless allowed the fiddling band to rehearse in the family's front room at 24th Road. During the time, Lennon wrote his first song, Hello Little Girl, which began the UK top 10 hit with The Foremost, 1963. Lennon recommended that his friend George Harrison became a lead guitarist. Lennon thought that Harrison, then 14 years ago, was too young. McCartney engineered an audition for Upper Deck's Liverpool bus. Just 1 second here. Rock and roll. Stuart Sutcliffe, Lennon's friend from art school, later joined as the bassist. Lennon, McCartney, Harrison, and Sutcliffe became the Beatles in early 1960. In August that year, the Beatles were engaged in 49 Regency in Hamburg, West Germany, and were desperately in need of a drummer. They asked Pete Best to join them. Lennon's aunt horrified when he told her about the trip, pleaded to Lennon continue his art studies instead. After his first Hamburg residence, the band accepted another April 1961, a third April 1962. His other band members, Lennon was introduced to Berlin while in Hamburg and regularly took a drug as a stimulant during the long overnight performances. Brian Epstein managed the Beatles from 1962 until his death in 1967. No previous experience in managing artists, but he had a strong influence of the group's dress codes and attitudes on stage. Lennon intentionally resisted his attempts to encourage a band and present a professional appearance, but eventually complied, saying, I'll wear a bloody balloon if somebody's going to pay me.